Hey guys, it's Clovis, and in this week's AI video, we are going to talk about Exodia functions, or as whoever typed it in calls them, Exodia functions. So, before I continue, I do need to clarify something about these Exodia functions. You'll notice in all of these Exodia functions, Exodia is misspelled. Like all the previous videos, I will be using the exact text found in the original Japanese version of the game, extracted by generic mad scientists, of course. So, rather than me intentionally misspelling Exodia in all of these functions, Exodia is actually misspelled by whatever developer entered it in. Remember that not only the developers of the game are Japanese and wouldn't speak English as their first language, this game was likely to be in development before Exodia was even printed in English, and I don't even know if there was an official English spelling of Exodia at the time that this developer entered in Exodia in these functions. So, yeah, bottom line, for all these functions, Exodia is spelled with a Z, or a Z if you want to pronounce it like that, after the X. So I just wanted to clear this up in case anyone is wondering why Exodia is spelled wrong every single time a function comes up. But anyways, now that we've got that out of the way, let's talk about the Exodia functions in Duelists of the Roses. There are 3 AI in the game that have functions containing the text EXZ. These are Deckmaster K, Seto Kaiba, and of course, Jasper Dice Tudor. So, as mentioned in the previous AI logic videos, Seto Kaiba and Deckmaster K share a bunch of AI functions for no real conclusive reason. We probably will never really find out why that's the case, but either way, TALogicCom underscore is Xparts, TALogic underscore is Tactic X, and TALogic underscore is Exodia. Despite Seto AI not being given any of these Exodia pieces, he does have these functions, which is interesting, but I don't want to distract people too much from their purpose, but it is kind of relevant to what we're talking about, so I will get a couple of things out of the way before I go into the full details of what these actually do. So because Seto has these functions, for whatever reason, if you did give Seto Kaiba an Exodia the Forbidden One deck leader and the Exodia pieces in his deck, he could theoretically use these logic functions to resolve an Exodia win condition, as these are purposely put in the game so that the AI can differentiate between these Exodia pieces from other monsters. This is also relevant as if you gave the Exodia pieces to the AI that do not have Exodia functions, they would treat all the Exodia pieces like any other monster, for example, fusing them. Because the AI would normally play them in the same automated way, they made these functions to give to the AI who could potentially play Exodia, such as Deckmaster K. One other thing to mention, I will talk about a bit later on, is because Seto Kaiba doesn't actually have Exodia as a deck leader or any Exodia pieces in his deck, he kind of just ignores these functions. These functions generally check if the AI has these parts, and if they don't, the AI just ignores them, and then Seto behaves the same way as he would with his deck and his deck leader on the map, whether or not he had these functions or not. But of course we'll go into detail about that in a minute. So yeah, we all know Seto Kaiba's AI just has a bunch of Deckmaster K functions regardless, so we can just kind of get past that. Deckmaster K, however, is not only eligible to be given Exodia pieces by you having Exodia in your deck, and Deckmaster K just being a copy of your deck, but Deckmaster K is of course used for all Deckmasters, which includes Deckmaster T. If you go to the custom duel with a PlayStation 1 memory card in the second memory card port, you will duel against Deckmaster T, who has Exodia the Forbidden One as a deck leader, and their deck also contains the Exodia pieces. Also, quick note, remember Shadi's AI simply is Deckmaster K's AI. You could theoretically give Shadi's AI an Exodia the Forbidden One deck leader, give him the Exodia pieces, and he would be able to resolve the Exodia win condition as well. But, anyways, why don't we actually discuss Deckmaster K's Exodia related logic functions? TALogic underscore is Tactics X checks if they have Exodia the Forbidden One as a deck leader, and the 4 limbs in their deck. If they do, then it knows to play a certain way as if it can possibly resolve this win condition, and knows to call the other functions because this is relevant. Because Seto, Kaiba, and Shadi do not actually have the Exodia pieces in their deck or an Exodia deck leader, is Tactics X returns false immediately at the start of the duel, and as explained before, the AI never even interacts with these other functions and continues to play as if it wasn't even given these functions in the first place. Remember that functions that have the word is following the underscore are yes or no functions, so because this returns false, the AI just ignores the rest of the functions. TA logic com underscore is X parts checks if the card is an Exodia piece. So in the case of giving this logic function to the AI, what this does is actually checks the ID of the card, and if it is 54, 55, 56, or 57, which are the Exodia pieces of course, this function returns true. The AI can then use this information to know that they have Exodia piece in the hand to not fuse it, then also once it is on the field, it also uses this information for the next function. TA logic underscore is Exodia is the third and final Exodia related logic function for Deckmaster K's AI. This will check if the AI actually has one copy of each limb around the deck leader, and again checks to make sure if the AI's deck leader is Exodia the Forbidden One. Then if this returns true, the AI knows it can play Exodia in its full power and will attempt to flip up all of its Exodia limbs to achieve this win condition. Just remember that the AI don't actively play or pressure themselves in a way to dump other cards to cycle through its limbs and play them out. It won't dump its whole hand and play Solomon's Law Book to cycle through, like, in the anime when he plays a bunch of draw power cards to try and achieve Exodia. The AI doesn't do this. So if you play against Deckmaster K, you'll find it just plays cards normally like any other AI. And then, if it happens to have cycled through everything and play its Exodia pieces, only then will it actually attempt to play Exodia. So basically, the AI will just play normally until suddenly, if it realizes it has the 4 Exodia limbs on the field next to the deck leader, it's like, oh, wait a minute, I can flip these up and play Exodia and win. That's pretty much what this function is for. So now on to Jasper Dice Tudor, aka Grandpa, Gramps, who is known as the token Exodia deck in the game, and the only one people will play against if they don't know about Deckmaster T. So, Jasper has the following functions, which you can see on the screen. Of course, TA logic 017, his AI is numbered 017, so all these functions are related specifically to him. He has is X parts, is Exodia, just like basically his own version of the Deckmaster K ones, but he also has play X combo, get empty X piece, and is X safe, which of course we'll talk about. So, despite being numbered specifically for this AI, his is X parts and is Exodia are the exact same as I explained before. You'll notice he lacks an is tactics X function, but because the purpose of this function is to check if he has Exodia and its limbs to know if he wants to play that strategy, he doesn't need this, as in the base game he is guaranteed to have the Exodia Forbidden One deck leader and one of each of the 4 limbs in his deck, so he is simply guaranteed to play as if he has an Exodia deck leader and all these parts in the deck. With this information, all we really need to explain now are play X combo, get empty X piece, and is X safe. So, let's do that. So, TA logic 017 underscore play X combo does not actually refer to resolving the strategy after his cards are on the field, like playing the 4 limbs as a combo or anything, but actually, like all combo AI logic functions, it simply gives the AI instructions on performing an in-hand combo to then proceed to the next step and know what to do with that card and or corresponding combo. In the case of this combo, play X combo actually returns true if he has an Exodia piece in the hand, so he knows to play it. The combo part of this function actually tells him he can combine Exodia parts with any compatible equips, which in this case are simply the equip cards in his deck, such as Black Pendant. So, what he will do is if this returns true, he knows to play an Exodia limb plus any other compatible equips, and then proceed to choose the tile next to him to play that Exodia part with any possible combination of cards in his hand that is compatible for this function. Get empty X piece seems to return the next square for Grandpa to play an Exodia piece on. You'll notice when playing against him, he will play monsters behind him to the left, and then spells and traps behind him to the right, but in his preferred spot on the map, he will play Exodia pieces adjacent tiles of his deck leader, so that he can eventually resolve Exodia. This function is what tells him where to place Exodia pieces, so that he doesn't play them behind to the left and then move them down the side of the field like playing all of his other monsters, because of course if he did that, he would never be able to resolve Exodia, because then his piece wouldn't be next to his deck leader. Get empty X piece will simply return the next available square for Jasper to play an Exodia piece, so that he can lay them out in a way that allows him to resolve Exodia once all 4 of them is on the field. Funny enough, in this function, the term, or the word piece in a logic function actually refers to a tile on the field, and there are a few other logic functions that do that, but yeah, it's not an Exodia piece, it's, well, Exodia limbs or whatever, it's actually just the piece. Get piece means get the tile to do something on. Anyways, finally, TA logic 017 underscore is X safe is a bit more confusing, it's quite peculiar. So the name of this function suggests the idea of the function is to check if he is currently protecting his own Exodia strategy. Is X safe returns yes or true, only if all of the following are true. If he has an acid trap hole on the field or in his graveyard, if he has an infinite dismissal on the field or in his graveyard, if he has an anti-Raigeki on the field or in his graveyard, and finally, of course, if he has a white hole on the field or in his graveyard. So all of these need to be true. So for example, if all of these cards are on the field, or all of the cards are in his graveyard, or any combination of those, basically what this means is that if he has played all these cards out of the hand, regardless of if they've been sent to the graveyard or not, this returns true. Interestingly enough, if you were to revive one of these cards, then you would actually disrupt this function. So this interacts with TA logic 017 underscore is set trap, which is another function I don't fully understand, but what I assume is this is a way for him to problem solve playing his trap cards or prioritizing them, so that if he plays all of these trap cards he feels that Exodia is safe to play, then he might start prioritizing Exodia over other spells and traps. I am not 100% sure about this function. I can't really problem solve past this. All I really know is that this function, with EXZ in the name, does this, exactly what I said, in that it returns true if it meets those conditions, and I'm just basically trying to guess why this is relevant for the AI. I really do not know nearly as much about the AI to conclude this sort of thing, but I'm pretty sure the idea is that if this returns true, it affects his playstyle in a way that prioritizes Exodia. So yeah, again, as I mentioned, it interacts with isSet trap, which is another function I'm not 100% sure with, which I assume is set trap because it's a true or false thing, is basically just telling him if he wants to play a trap card or not. And even then, it's not even 100% clear if that refers to all of these traps or just the 4 specific traps that I mentioned, because he also has Magic Jammer, which he could just play whenever he wants. And a lot of the times, the AI will just play something like, for example, play the first trap card out of the hand, or play the first spell out of the hand if it doesn't want to prioritize anything else. So for example, if he drew Magic Jammer and then he had a handful of stuff that he didn't want to prioritize over a trap card, then he would just automatically play it anyways. But I am not going to sit here and say that I have a conclusive answer to what is X safe is actually doing, apart from what the actual function itself is returning true or false, which I already mentioned. So, thanks a lot for watching this AI logic video. If you like this one, consider checking the playlist of AI logic functions for Duels of the Roses. and also consider subscribing if you liked the video. Thanks again, I really appreciate the viewership, and I'll see you guys in the next video, whatever that one's going to be. So yeah, see you later.